If you think that you've experienced generative AI, I'm going to let you know that you probably haven't because a new product offering from Microsoft, I think is going to completely change the business world. It might be for the better, it might be for the worse, or a little of both. So today's show is going to be full of some hot takes, and it might be a longer one, but I'm excited to have you along for the ride. My name is Jordan Wilson, and this is Everyday AI. This is a daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday people like you and me not just keep up with what's going on in the world of AI, but how we can all actually use it. Okay, an emphasis on using it, and that's really what today's show is going to be about, because Microsoft 365 Copilot is going to be extremely disruptive. So we're going to talk about that. But before I do, as a reminder, go to youreverydayai.com right now, sign up for the newsletter, because this is going to be one that you're going to want to read. All right. And as a reminder, for all of you joining live, thank you. I appreciate your support. Do you know this is the 91st episode, right? Is that crazy? What should we do for episode 100? Let me know. Drop me something in the comments. And if you're joining us on podcast, Spotify, Apple, thank you. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a rating. But before we get into the big topic of today, which is Microsoft Copilot, let's go ahead and recap some of the news, because it was actually a pretty big news day in the world of AI news. All right, let's start at the top. OpenAI recently passed $1 billion in revenue. Not too bad for a company that's only been charging for its product for a couple of months. So big companies, I think, are to credit for that, as a recent report showed. And that revenue mark is sure to go up exponentially, as we covered on the show yesterday. But ChatGPT for Enterprise was just announced. And we covered that on the show a little bit and in the newsletter. So it's going to be extremely interesting for the future of this large language model from OpenAI, because so many enterprise companies didn't want to touch it because they weren't sure of what would happen with their data. And that's what OpenAI has been working on for many months. So it should be exciting to see what happens there. Next piece of news: Google made a big splash at their Google Cloud Next conference. So this was, largely focused on a lot of cloud, but AI services. And they updated a lot of their core products, core Gen AI products, such as Duet AI, Vertex AI. So just all of these collaborative tools and cloud tools. Also, they announced pretty, I don't know, surprising, but support for third-party models like Meta's Llama 2, Anthropic Cloud, etc. And they also announced pricing at $30 per month per workspace account. Last but not least, kind of related to that, big partnership news out of that, actually. Two of the, I believe, 5 biggest companies announced a pretty big partnership. So NVIDIA and Google have partnered. So this obviously sent NVIDIA's stock soaring. And the company announced that it will be partnering with Google in its ever-evolving technology, NVIDIA selling their technology through Google's cloud. So pretty big news on that space. But are y'all ready to talk Copilot? I hope you are. I'm excited for this. You know what? There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover. And let me start by saying this. No one's paying me to say anything. I just want to put that out there. This is not sponsored by Microsoft or anything like that. This is just my background, in my opinion, but I'm going to get into that. But first, big shout out to everyone joining us. Henry joining us from Zurich. Thank you, Henry. Val, good morning. Woozy, good morning. You know what? If you're joining us, maybe if you listen live often and you don't comment, let me know. I want to know. I want to know who's out there and where are you from? Where are you joining us from? We have a great growing community here at Everyday AI of just everyday people, really learning together. So shout out to all of you. Shout out to Ahmed joining from Dubai. What's going on, Ahmed? Josh from Nigeria. Brownwin from South Africa saying good afternoon, uses Microsoft a lot. So far, that's like, I don't know, 7 different countries so far. Thank you all. This is great. Brian, always good to have you from Mississippi Gulf Coast. Dr. Harvey Castro, glad to be here for the 91st episode. Have you watched or listened to all of them, Dr. Castro? That would be amazing. Or if anyone else has, thank you all. And make sure I'll drop our episode later in the comments. He was a former guest. Peter, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Trevor saying, hey, joining us from the West Coast, Trevor. Thank you. Cecilia, buenos dias from Chicago. Thank you. A lot of people going on. Jackie joining us. Thank you. Kevin joining us from Atlanta. All right. I just wanted to give a lot of shout outs to everyone today. Because I just realized last night that, we were rounding up on our 100th live stream. So, and it's all possible from you guys just showing support and everyone out there listening, on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. So thank you all. But now let's get into it. And please, I'm probably going to go on a little bit of a hot take and a rant and some storytelling, but I'm going to get to your questions at the end. So make sure you please drop your questions in now. What do you want to know about Microsoft 365 Copilot and the future of work? All right. That's me taking a drink. That means I'm winding up for something here, y'all. All right. So before we get into this, I'm going to tell a very, very quick story. And this isn't to give myself credibility, but for those that don't know me very well, I'm going to be saying some things that might ruffle some feathers. And I want to give a little bit of context on my background, okay? Because if you're listening on the podcast, no, I am not some 22-year-old. I do have gray hair. I've been working for a while. All right. So essentially here's my background. I spent 7 years as a full-time journalist. So I started working at a very young age. Then I spent 9 years as a nonprofit executive, but we essentially just became a partnership agency with Nike and Jordan Brand. So I have a lot of enterprise experience, and I was working with a lot of consulting and digital agencies, dozens of them during my nearly decade of working as a nonprofit executive, but mainly working with Nike and Jordan Brand. And then for the last 4 years, I've owned my own digital consultancy. So we are a digital strategy company called Accelerant Agency. All right. So yeah, I've been working for 20 years and mainly in tech-related backgrounds. All of my jobs was growing companies through tech, growing readership through tech, growing other companies through tech, right? And even before that, when I was still, I don't know, in high school, I'm actually a Microsoft certified professional, or I was, right? So I'm a super, super geek. Like, I'm part old school technologist, part creative and digital statistical analyst, and part future thinking AI strategist. All right. So I want you all to know where I'm coming from, because a lot of people who talk about AI, they're one of two things. They're young kids who tried to, ride the crypto wave, and they busted. So they're like, all right, let me talk about AI, even though I'm 20. And then there's these rich tech leaders, in their 50s who exited their companies. And so I'm in the middle. I'm like you. I'm an everyday person. I'm going to be working, for decades to come. And I have decades of experience. And I think that's important to set the stage that I am like you. All right. And when I see all this generative AI coming, I have mixed feelings, probably just like you do. Right. So this episode as well is very much reflective of that. This is part elated excitement, yet part cautionary tale for what this means for our economy, especially here in the US. All right. So without further ado, that's enough wind up, right? Let's talk about Copilot and why I'm excited about it. All right. So if you are listening on the podcast, thank you. Again, check the show notes. I'm going to be showing some things on my screen here on the live stream. So If something didn't quite make sense, if you're listening on the podcast, make sure to click the show notes, watch the video, but nothing too crazy. Mainly just screenshots. I'm taking screenshots from multiple videos that Microsoft has released explaining their Copilot product. Okay, because I think they actually did a great job with the storytelling and explaining how their product works. And I don't think a lot of people really paid attention to the fine details. So I'm going to go ahead and uncover it, kind of step by step, slide by slide. All right, but let's start at the top. And again, thank you all for joining us. Get your questions in now. I'm going to tackle a lot of your questions at the end, like Dr. Harvey Castro is saying here. It's the good, it's all the productivity. Yes, a lot of productivity. So let's talk about it. What the heck is Copilot? Why does it matter? Okay. One other thing to keep in mind, Microsoft is a large owner, or has a large ownership stake in OpenAI. So the most popular large language model out there, ChatGPT, it's reported that Microsoft is just under half, has about half of the ownership, just under half. Okay, so that's important because all of that data, all of that learning of 100 million users. Is that crazy? ChatGPT, within weeks after its release, which is one of the most popular releases ever, had 100 million users. But think, that's still about 1% of the US population. So the majority of us have not even started to experience or use or reap the benefits from generative AI, which I think is Copilot. Copilot's going to be it, right? If y'all thought that OpenAI started this generative AI wave, it hasn't started yet, because you still have to go so far out of your way right now to use generative AI. You do, right? So we talk about all kinds of popular programs all the time on this show, ChatGPT and Google Bard, other large language models like Anthropic's Cloud, and then other, creative products such as Midjourney, text to image, Dolly, text to image, Stable Diffusion, Runway, text to video, right? So, but here's the difference with all of this generative AI technology out there. It's not working for us, right? And this is why I also sometimes go on rants when people talk about, ditch ChatGPT and use Cloud, ditch ChatGPT and use Google Bard. Absolutely not. One of the reasons why I talk about ChatGPT so much and why it relates very closely to what we're talking about today is because right now, ChatGPT with plugins, hot take right here, it is the only practical use of generative AI out there right now, period. Because you can automate so many parts of your business. You can bring your business in to ChatGPT with plugins. That's what we teach. If any of you guys have taken our PPP course, the Prime Prompt Polish course, that's one of the things that we talk about. The Pro course is coming out soon. Don't worry, guys. But if you want more info, or if you want to grab access to that, just drop PPP in the comments or email me. But Copilot, aside from ChatGPT plugins, I think is the only true generative AI that is going to be working for people. And if you've been using ChatGPT plugins and creating plugin packs like we teach, and you found it useful because you can automate so much of your business, just wait until we get into Copilot here. It's literally going to be the first real, I think, the first real use case of generative AI in business, period. Everything else, not practical use cases, I don't think, aside from ChatGPT plugins. All right, let's talk about it. You've heard Copilot before. Here's the thing. I'm not sure where Microsoft is going with their naming, but a lot of times early on when people were talking Copilot, people thought it was GitHub. So GitHub, also tricky. GitHub is owned by Microsoft, right? And GitHub has had their Copilot feature live for many months, which is essentially, not to oversimplify it, but it's AI for coding, right? Being able to talk in code. But that's not what Copilot is, even though that is technically part. All right, so getting that out of the way now. So let's talk about 365 Copilot. It is every single part of Microsoft's software, all combined. So it is a large language model. It is called, then it's combining also the Microsoft Graph, your internal company data, and then all of Microsoft 365 apps. So, everything from Microsoft Word and Outlook and Excel to OneNote, Teams meetings, and business chat. Business chat, I think, is going to be a very exciting one. We're going to go over that at the end. But let's go over some actual practical use cases and what this means to have generative AI baked into your operating system. That's the biggest key here. You don't have to log into 50 different programs. This generative AI, this Copilot from Microsoft, is going to, quote unquote, follow you around, right? So there is no release date yet. I should have started that right now. Or I should have stated that at the top of the show. But Microsoft has already started to roll out Copilot in specific apps, just in small batches to kind of enterprise clients, kind of as a beta release. Okay, but it's not out publicly yet. But they are starting to roll it out here and there. Okay, so let's talk about what that means to have generative AI, to have a Microsoft Copilot baked into your operating system, into all of the apps that you use. That's the biggest difference, because right now you're using maybe a handful or dozens of different products, and it's a lot of copying and pasting. Things are not connected. All of the generative AI products out there right now that are useful are extremely siloed, which is not a practical business use case. So here's the example, and I'm going to do my best to explain it. This is from kind of the Copilot release video. We're going to link to that in the newsletter, but this is the power of Microsoft Copilot. Here we go. So this is an example here of Copilot. So saying, prepare for my, just talking to Copilot, which again, this is why you have to, don't just use copy and paste prompts. Guys, I talk about this all the time. Large language models and generative AI, you have to learn. It is a communication skill. That's what we teach in the PPP course. So in this example, you're saying, hey, prepare me for this meeting that's coming up. You're telling Copilot. And it's looking through all of your documents, all of your emails to find contextual information about that meeting. Pretty wild, right? So we're telling a story now. So now next here, a screenshot. We're in Microsoft Word. And you can speak with Copilot in any of the Microsoft 365 programs. And in this example, we're saying draft a product announcement based on, and you can reference any documents. So, you can use an @ symbol. In this example, they're talking Cafe AI. And I think over the next couple of slides and examples, that's kind of what we're talking about from this video, which was great storytelling. So imagine that you're working at this company, Cafe AI. Okay, so you just prepared for your meeting. Now you're taking your product to market and you're saying, draft a product announcement based on, and you can reference documents. You type in @ and then it's going to go through. Okay, and it found a Word document about Cafe AI. It found a Microsoft OneNote document. It found a PowerPoint. So you can reference inside any other document. You can reference any other document, right? Pretty wild. You don't have that right now in any generative AI system. Aside from, Google's kind of Duet workspace, which I'm not super impressed with, but no other system right now is able to do this. Okay, then what? Then you can talk to Copilot and say, based on that press release, create a 10-slide presentation. Am I the only one when I think about the applicable use cases of this, that already this is just blowing my mind, right? Yeah, like Trevor says, okay, so I have a use case. Yes. Here's the other thing, y'all. I told you, like when I was, 15 years old or whatever, I was a Microsoft certified professional. Shortly after that, I haven't used a PC. I've been team Mac, team iPhone, team Apple for a decade plus. And who knows, Apple's, reportedly releasing their Apple GPT. They haven't really said what that is, but I'm going to be buying a PC, which sounds weird for me as someone that's been using a Mac for Mac and Apple products exclusively for 10 plus years. I'm literally going to be buying a PC and relearning the Microsoft ecosystem for things like this, like what we see on the screen. Okay, we used Copilot to read through all of our meeting notes, all of our documents to create a press release. And then we're using Copilot to create a slide presentation based on the press release that Copilot made. There's also a lot of inception going on here, right? Okay, so then what happens? Then you have a PowerPoint presentation here. So again, if you're listening on the podcast, you have a pretty good looking presentation that Copilot built in seconds that you can go in and edit. I mean, just those steps right there, right? Just those steps of going through, reading emails, creating a document, creating a press release, creating a PowerPoint presentation would normally take multiple humans, especially at a larger company, multiple humans. Now it's done in seconds. It would take multiple humans, maybe a week plus around a big product announcement, maybe a couple weeks. We're talking about hundreds of hours of human power that can now be done in a minute or two. That's not exaggeration. Again, guys, my background, we consult companies. We've been, a digital strategy consulting company. I've been working on the internet in general for 20 years. The possibilities of this are amazingly exciting, yet potentially devastating. More on that later. So let's keep going. What happens after that presentation? You're saying, okay, Jordan, cool. What does that mean? Okay. Now you launch your product. You launch your Cafe AI, the PowerPoint, your presentation, you leads to sales all over. You can go into Excel then and say, hey, analyze all this data. That part to me is making me drool. As someone that's worked, I can't tell you the amount of time I've spent hundreds of hours in spreadsheets in my career, probably thousands, if I'm being honest. I actually like spreadsheets, but to be able to analyze data in a conversational way and to ask questions of your data and to be able to pull from other products is amazing. Okay. Yeah. Asking conversation. So here in this example, it's not just clicking the button and saying, analyze this data inside of a spreadsheet, but having a conversation like asking, hey, with our Cafe AI release, which products were the most profitable this quarter? And being able to figure that out right away. Talk about hitting your KPIs, right? Copilot can become a business strategist by being able to analyze data. And then based on that strategy, can build a lot of it for you, right? And you'll see right here, right? After you say, what's the most profitable products? You get beautiful spreadsheets and graphs instantly. Again, are you starting to yet recognize what this is going to mean for small, medium, and enterprise businesses alike? One person now has the capabilities. If they can work with a large language models, they now have the capability to do what entire departments, it would take entire multiple departments, days, weeks, or months to do. One person can now do that if you know how to work with generative AI, right? This is why we have the Everyday AI show, to teach people generative AI in large language models and the looming possibilities that are coming ahead. We're gonna go a little faster. Okay, so now you've launched your product. You've crunched all the numbers. You can ask Copilot in this example, draft a response with my approval, but highlight key risks from, and then you can reference a file. That's the other thing. People, when they think about generative AI, I think a common misconception is people don't know that you can steer you can steer generative AI systems. Same thing with ChatGPT, Google Bard, but also Microsoft Copilot. It's you still, as the human, you have to guide it, you have to control it, and you have to approve it. But this is a great concept, right? It's not just going to go out and create something, create spreadsheets and create PowerPoints, create emails, create presentations that you have no control over. You have to guide the AI. That's what we teach in the polish section of our free PPP course, right? You have to steer and navigate AI and give it examples. So that's an example of working with Copilot here. Draft a response with my approval, but highlight key risks from, and then you can enter a document, maybe a shared document that the humans have put together, and they said, all right, here's what we have to consider. Couple more. This is exciting. Outlook, right? Being able to use Copilot to essentially triage your mail inbox and to also help generate responses. Because I've had, I'll even talk about things in the past, right? A lot of times working on large partnership programs with Nike, we ran Michael Jordan's community program, and there would be, with a lot of internal, external, third-party partners, there'd be very important emails that I would have to send. And we'd have a team working on it, and I'm leading this team, and there's a lot of documents, and hey, you two take this, and let's highlight key points. You two take this, and we would work for a long time. If it's a big project, a big program. Here you can do it in seconds, right? Read through long email threads. Again, you can approve it. It's going to look through corresponding documents. It's going to scan your email and tell you what's important and what's not. And it's going to have all of that contextual information. That's the other thing. That's the big difference with working with a closed, kind of a more quote unquote closed model, like large language model like ChatGPT, Google Bard. Right now those things don't have relevant context from all of your other business apps. Microsoft 365 Copilot will. Can you guys start to see now why this Mac fanboy is going to be buying a PC? This is why. All right, a couple other things here. The other big one is meetings, especially post-pandemic, now that companies are so much more comfortable with going, hybrid or virtual, remote, just having more meetings. So Copilot works with Microsoft Teams. So in this example, it says, it looks like you joined late. No worries. We captured a summary for you, right? This is going to make everyone's job much easier, but I also worry it's going to make a lot of humans lazy, right? Because I think if you know how to use generative AI, you will be able to coast, especially if you are an early adopter, and if you learn early enough, you will be able to coast through your job until everyone else catches up with you. All right. That's why I tell people learn and use generative AI now. Okay. So imagine jumping into a meeting at the end or afterwards and not having to, so many meetings that last for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. It's like, y'all, that could have been a 3-paragraph email or a 10 bullet point message, right? We didn't need to waste an hour. That's what Copilot does. It gives everyone their time back, with, meetings. Instead of having an entire team on a meeting now, you might want to bring all hands on deck meeting. No, get the 2 decision makers in only, and then send the other 8 people the meeting recap. You just saved, if it's a 1-hour meeting and it meets every week, you just saved your company about 35 hours a month. Easy, right? And much more accurate. And there's no excuse for, do you remember we talked about this in the meeting? There's no more of that, right? There's no more, hey, talked about this earlier on a show. I'll put it in the links later. We had a guest on, very smart, but he said, hey, Microsoft Copilot, what does this mean for project managers, for PMs, even maybe product managers? I don't know. I don't know. That's the other side of this, right? That's why I say it's part excitement and part cautionary tale. Because now you can see once companies integrate something like Microsoft 365 Copilot, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to grow exponentially or they're going to slowly grow and potentially reduce their workforce. That's the reality. That's the harsh reality. No one wants to talk about AI like that. I will. People want to have this very overly optimistic view, and they always say this line that I wish we could delete from the internet that says, AI won't take your job. Someone using AI will. All right, well, what about this example now? That one person could go through all of these Microsoft 365 products and do the job of a handful of people, a dozen people, multiple teams. It's not a one-to-one ratio. It's equally exciting, and this is a cautionary tale for what is the future of business. All right. One other thing, one last thing here is business chat. So you don't just have to go into different apps, to use Microsoft Copilot. There is a centralized chat. Think of it, probably the easiest way to say might be, like ChatGPT, but this is kind of a central hub where you can open up and pull in data from everywhere. So it's not like, I have to go to Microsoft Office or I have to go, open these 4 or 5 other programs. You can just go to the business chat, which is essentially a centralized hub powered by Microsoft 365 Copilot, and talk to all of your different documents. So it's essentially, kind of like having your, ChatGPT companion, so to speak, but it can access and work in all of your documents without you even having to go in back and forth. Whew. That's a lot, y'all. Water break. That's a lot. What do you think of Copilot? All right. This was a lot. I'm gonna jump in here, take some questions, and then we'll end with an even hotter take. All right. So Dr. Harvey Castro is saying, yeah, any AI PowerPoint company startup will be gone. Yeah. There's been a lot of I wouldn't say all of them, but I'd say many of them. I think you have your you have your bigger ones that I think probably will stick around, your Tome.ai, your Beautiful.ai, because not everyone's on Microsoft either. And the other thing, great conversation piece, is not all companies are going to opt into Copilot. Okay? Which is such an important part of the conversation, right? When we say, hey, if we think ChatGPT is so disruptive and so prevalent right now in society, or potentially disruptive, less than 1% of the world's population uses it, right? But the majority of companies use Microsoft, right? Obviously, Mac and Apple have started to gain a little bit of enterprise market share, but for the most part, everyone uses Windows computers. And so many big companies have said no to generative AI because of their data, right? But a big announcement from this week, OpenAI releasing ChatGPT Enterprise is going to change a lot of people's attitude. That's going to be finally, I think, when enterprise companies, so let's just say, the Fortune 1000, so the 1,000 biggest companies in the US, I think now are going to start to all start to incorporate maybe ChatGPT for Enterprise, or when Microsoft 365 Copilot is fully released. Again, we don't know when. There's rumors it might be the end of 2023. It might be the first or second quarter of 2024. But yes, it's going to change. It's going to change the business landscape. Yeah, Val's saying Team Apple. It's going to be exciting, Val, to see what this Apple, whatever they're calling it, Ajax or Apple GPT, what is that going to be? Is it going to be like Microsoft 365 Copilot? I don't know. Personally, I'm not a fan of Apple's native apps, the pages and sheets. I think they're a little clunky, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I don't know what Apple is going to do to respond to this, but I think what you're going to see is Microsoft is going to explode. I mean, they're already the second biggest company according to market cap, I believe. Just second, second only. Let's actually bring this up here because good point. Second only to Apple, right? So I think that's going to change. If I'm being honest, depends on what Apple releases on this front because Microsoft is changing business. That's it. They're changing the economy. They're changing business. They're going to change society. And that's not an exaggeration. Again, tapping into my background, right? Part old school technologist, part creative digital analyst, part future thinking AI strategist. Microsoft, this is going to change society because it is going to lead to, I think, a somewhat volatile business, how would I say it? World of business, we'll just say, because I think that some companies are going to be able to grow so much more quickly than they were before. And I think some companies are going to see this technology and they're going to go through massive layoffs, right? They're going to say, hey, if we can increase revenue by 10%, but decrease our workforce by 30%, why wouldn't we, right? Because that's the difference right now. Business in the U.S. is all about it's all about profitability. It's not necessarily about revenue and jobs. Some companies will have ethics when it comes to implementing this, but many companies don't care. Look at CEO pay compared to the average worker pay. So yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. Yeah, we'll see what Apple does. A lot of comments here, guys. Yeah, Trevor saying, yeah, he agrees with a lot of people are going to be coasting with generative AI. Val saying he sees the opportunity for to be more productive and creative. Major, what up, Major? Thanks for joining us. Saying that is the history of technology. Yeah. Someone asking if I could post my slides. There's screenshots. Yeah, sure. I'll save them in the LinkedIn thread here. But thank you for this comment, Trevor. This is the reality. Wall Street hates employees. Such a good comment, Trevor. Such a good take. Because again, that is where the part cautionary tale comes into play, right? Because the digital strategist in me sees something like Microsoft Copilot and is extremely excited because businesses will be able to grow like never before. But then the AI future thinker in me knows that this could have and not just Microsoft Copilot, but this type of generative AI advancement could have shockingly large economic and societal impacts that we don't know yet, right? This isn't an episode to scare you as I wrap this up. This isn't an episode to scare you. I hope that this, if nothing else, it excites you and it moves you to want to learn more about generative AI. Because if this did not really open your eyes to the future of work, to the future of business productivity, to the future of just what it means to be an employee, to be part of a company, this Microsoft Copilot and this type of generative AI technology that is baked into an operating system that follows us wherever we go, this is changing everything. All right. So it's a lot today. Thank you for joining us. As a reminder, please go to your everydayai.com. We're going to recap today's episode, and there's a lot more. Have you really not signed up for the newsletter? Why not? I think, hey, I'm obviously biased, but I think it's amazing. So go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for that free daily newsletter, and I hope that you come back and listen to another episode. We do this every single day, Monday through Friday. We have some exciting guests coming up in the coming weeks from big companies like IBM and Microsoft. We're going to have employees from big companies like IBM and Microsoft, to some legal guests talking about the legal implications of AI, entrepreneurs, startup owners. We have such an exciting lineup of guests coming to the Everyday AI show in the coming weeks. So thank you for joining us. I hope this episode really opened up your eyes, and I hope to see you back for another episode of Everyday AI.